Hi, it's Declan here. This video is all about answering a question from one of the students, which is how do you play really fast? So, as in, how do you play notes really quickly? So I'm assuming that question is being asked either how to play then songs up to the full normal speed, or even how to just impress people because you can play quickly. So there's a few pointers on this I'll just share with you. One of the main principles that overrides playing well is that you make your fingers do the work instead of your hand. So what you don't want is your hand moving around a lot when that can be avoided by using your fingers more. So the worst example of hand moving would be the one-fingered kind of approach that you see some people doing, which is, like, that way is every note then means that your hand is moving, which is the last thing which you want to do. The reasons for that are many, but some of them would be it's much easier to hit a wrong note if your hand is moving all the time. It also means that you can't play very smoothly because you have to jump off every note, whereas if you are playing with your fingers, it's possible to play much more smoothly and even hold down some notes as you press other notes. So yeah, don't try to avoid the one finger approach. So another tip would be to work out your fingering based upon phrases. So don't get too hung up about your thumb should be on note 1 and your little finger should be on note 5, etc. Really, it's the melody line will dictate where your hand should be. So I've done a video on this inside the course that shows this in more detail, but just to give you an overview, if you take Amazing Grace, which starts on a low 5, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, low 6, low 5. In that first phrase, now a phrase is usually one line on a typical deck play song sheet would be a phrase. But that, for example, could be, you could class this as one phrase. Yeah. So what I would do is put my lowest finger on the lowest note of the phrase, i.e. if you're playing your right hand and the melody is always played in the right hand, your thumb would be on the lowest note, so that would be low 5, and your little finger, your highest finger, would be on the highest note. So in this case it's a 3 at the top, and then the other fingers just fit in between. And it so happens on that particular phrase that there is 5 notes used in the phrase and you have 5 fingers, so that works really well, that you can play one finger over every note and you're not moving your hand at all during that whole phrase. So that's okay. On the next phrase, which starts off the same, but then halfway through it changes, so then you have to move your hand. But then if you move it, so if you look at the next phrase, the highest note of the next phrase is a 5. So you put your little finger on the 5, and the lowest note in that particular phrase is a 1. So then that fits nicely that there's a finger over every key. Now, it then goes down to a low 6, low 5. So then you have to cross over. And then it's back to the original hand position. So there's only 2 changes in that whole song, which is what we want. We want to minimize the amount of hand changes. So another tip would be practice on a regular basis will improve your dexterity. So by dexterity, I mean how smoothly and easily your fingers move. So again, that's common sense really. If you play very often, your fingers will be nice and loose and fluid. Another tip on the practice side is that if you practice lots of short sections, if you practice over and over again short sections, that's the quickest way for you to transfer the music from your conscious brain, where you're thinking about the notes and you're thinking about which keys to press, into the muscle memory part, where you can play that almost without thinking about it. A bit like if you drive a car without really thinking about how you change gear or indicate or turn, you just do it automatically. That's because that will have moved into your muscle memory, and again, that aids you playing really quickly. So when you have to think about the individual notes, that can slow you down when you are doing fast songs. So of course you have to start off thinking about them to learn it, but as soon as you can get the notes into your muscle memory, the better. And the way which you would do that is regular practice, and then practicing lots of little sections over and over again, rather than just playing the whole piece through every time. So another little tip would be, if you can memorize the song, then you don't have to look at the music. You can you are free to actually look at your hands. So if you're playing very quickly, you might have to change your hand position, and therefore, to avoid then hitting wrong notes, if you're able to look at your hand as you move, that obviously lets you play faster and avoiding hitting wrong notes easier if you are looking at your hands. If you're trying to look at the music and look at your hands at the same time, that will slow you down. So there's just a few tips on how to play quickly. There's more information inside the course videos.